Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Education System Reboot channel. I've been a little MIA, about a week, just busy closing out the semester where I'm at, and just try to get back in the swing of this. So what I want to talk about today is just a phrase that has been in part of my personal growth. I've listened to a lot of audios, and this idea has come up several times, and it's the idea of a travel agent versus a tour guide. And so to break that down first, it just basically is saying that are you as a teacher, or how I'm choosing to use it is as a teacher, am I going to be the person that says, this is how it is, have a good trip, like the travel agent, I'm going to, or am I going to take them on the journey with me? Am I going to be the person in the front saying, here's how I did this? And this kind of, for me, this kind of encapsulates this channel. Before COVID, before I've really dug into my personal growth, I would probably have been really a travel agent more than a tour guide. Now, I was a professional musician, so in the music sphere, I kind of was able to do both. Like I was living the life of a professional musician as best I could, so I could model and be a tour guide in that area. But in terms of being a teacher in the education system, my knowledge was limited to music. So anything else that students might be dealing with, I probably had to be a travel agent. Say, hey, I didn't have the necessary knowledge or experience to be able to give the advice that I would hope I could give as a teacher. And so I guess what I really want to get out of this particular video is just to say that personal growth, right? A decision to look at yourself and look at what you do daily and to make a commitment to be a better person through your habits, through your input, through what you read, through the association of people you're around. I mean, it could be any choice. It could be financial, whatever. Making those better decisions puts you as a teacher in a better position to be a tour guide and not a travel agent. And I was having a conversation with a friend. We were doing a Zoom, and this is kind of why I wanted to do this particular video today. And we were talking a lot just about the education system a little bit, and just some of the things that teachers are having to deal with. I'm trying to be vague on purpose. I'm trying not to go down any rabbit holes, but the bottom line is we were just talking about being able to relate with students. And what I'm realizing is because I'm growing personally, I can actually relate more to students. I don't have to live the life that they lived. I don't have to understand their background as much as maybe is beneficial, because here's why. As I grow, I run into situations where I have solutions. So even if I can't put myself in the exact shoes of what they're going through, I can find a part of my life, an example in my life, something that I have overcome in my life. And because I've overcome it, I can give what I would call tour guide advice, right? So I actually am putting myself in a better position to serve my students because I am focusing on growing me, okay? I'm making a choice to look at where I am in life and saying, I can do better. Let's also just realize it's more fulfilling, right? If you're able to take, let's use the tour guide analogy more in depth now. If I go on a trip and I have been there before, and I've studied the history, I've studied the culture, I've studied the art, I've studied the architecture, I don't know, whatever, I've studied it, or I've lived there, I can take someone with me and I can give them a better experience, right? So if I am winning at life, not in every area of life, but if I am being successful in areas of life, and I can tangibly tell a student how I'm doing better, I now can be their tour guide. I made a previous video called Moving from Teacher to Mentor, and it's kind of the same analogy. It's just phrased a little differently. But in my humble opinion, I feel like too many of us, we know our curriculum. So we're, we know the destination that someone's going. So we're the travel agent, but, we don't necessarily live out that life. And there's different layers, there's different levels of this. All right. So I'm going to try to break those down a little bit. So as a musician, there are many music teachers that don't play professionally. They just teach music. Maybe they play in a community band or whatever, but they couldn't necessarily guide a student to that next level. They couldn't take them, on a tour, be a tour guide to what would be the next thing if they want to be a professional musician, or what it's like to do an audition, or I try to multi-track and do other things. I compose. So I have more areas of expertise where I can be the tour guide. Okay. Now, in other areas, again, just throwing this out there, if we're an English teacher, do we write? Have we published books? Have we gone through the process? Publishing it by definition isn't the success. Can we model for our students what we're asking them to do? Right? I can. That's where I guess I feel very confident in saying this. When I preach to my kids about daily routines, I do daily routines. When I preach to them about how to practice for their music and how to practice their etudes, I'm practicing what I preach. I'm being a tour guide because I'm literally telling them exactly what I do to prepare for a professional gig, right? If you're an English teacher, going back to that, do you write? Like, have you written short stories? Have you tried to write a novel? Do you emulate or model great writing in your own life, right? And again, I don't say this to judge anyone. I just say that I think that might be one of the missing pieces in our education system, is we have too many teachers that are probably travel agents and not tour guides. I would say math might be harder. I mean, mathematicians, what do you do with math? But as long as you can apply it, like you're using math daily, you have the ability to describe that. But kind of circling back to the idea of personal growth, right? Personal growth is applicable to everything, right? And this I think is the biggest thing that I'm really trying to communicate on this channel is, if we look at ourselves and become the best version of ourselves through good habits and all the things I've kind of been preaching, then we now become a tour guide of life, right? I now have more experience, more expertise, more knowledge, more systems, I could go, more of so many different things that I can offer and model for students. And that allows me to actually relate to them more. And that's what it's so interesting, because again, in this highly polarized, I'm trying to be very diplomatic, but I don't know a better way of saying it. Just, politically correct world of what we call equity and all the stuff, and the point being is, if I'm growing, I can relate, because I can relate to the idea of overcoming obstacles, whatever they are. The approach to overcoming any obstacle, any adversity, it's kind of basically the same. And that's what I've learned as I've studied people that have been successful, who have overcome things, right? Every story, every movie that's about overcoming something, it's really the same thing. It's the idea of hard work. It's the idea of overcoming the obstacles. It's the idea of personal ownership. And to kind of wrap up, I'll just say that is what I feel more confidence in myself as a teacher, that I am able to have discussions with students, ask questions, see what their goals are, give them tangible solutions, relate to them and say, I struggled with this. Oh boy, I struggled with this, but here's how I overcame it. Here's the power of reading every day. Here's the power of better input. Here's the power of making your bed every morning. I mean, it might be that simple. It literally could be, life is tough. You know how I got over X, Y, and Z in my life? I developed better routines. I made my bed, etc. So I guess I just feel like it's so important as teachers that we recognize that although we have to be experts in our content area, we do. But here's the very tough reality. And I've said this a couple of times. I'm going to say it again. I can go on Google and I can learn anything I want if I'm dedicated enough. So in a weird way, our content, even as a musician, it's not as important anymore, right? So what is important, if we want to change the education system, if most of us, if not all of us, got into teaching because we wanted to serve, we wanted to do something bigger than ourselves, we wanted to help students do better in life. I mean, there's so many different ways, but we also usually had a passion for a subject area. But I hate to say this, and I'm saying this to myself, a lot of our subject areas are irrelevant because of the access to information. So it is more important that we can model for our students how to succeed at life, how to humble ourselves if we mess up, how to be open and vulnerable and say, you know, here are some areas where I really struggled. I mean, there are many areas in my life where I am 40 and I just can't believe I haven't, that I'm where I need to be. On the flip side, I can look at it and say, you know, even though I'm 40 and I had wished that I had learned a lot of these lessons earlier, I wouldn't have learned these lessons if I hadn't gone through the struggles and the situations and just the journey of life, right? Are we preaching that to students on a daily basis? Are we showing them that life isn't always fair, but it can get better? Mind over matter, right? We have to train our mind to be stronger than our feelings. Like, our feelings are important and we absolutely need to identify that. But a tour guide can say, yes, I felt what you felt. I get it. But here's what I did instead of playing the victim, etc. Like, being a tour guide, right, is so much more valuable in our education system than being a travel agent. So I leave you with this. What are you? Are you a travel agent or a tour guide? I know that I want to be a tour guide, okay? And I'm not going to have answers to everything, but I am going to have a life worth emulating, a life where I can give solid advice rooted in success principles, which is, again, why I'm making this channel. With that said, thank you very much. And don't forget, consistent effort over time equals success.